Hi everyone, welcome to a new video where I will explain to you how to write the problem statement for your research studies. Now remember, a good problem statement should create awareness and stimulate creative thinking. It should not identify a solution or create a bias towards a specific strategy. As a researcher, you have to constantly demonstrate to your examiners and reviewers or readers that you have approached this problem from an objective point of view and not leaning towards a particular strategy or solution when framing the problem. In today's video, I will take you through 9 steps of writing a problem statement and provide examples so that you can understand how to go about it. Now, the first step in defining a problem is what is the problem? So you have to be very clear about what your problem statement is. For example, your problem statement could be that in an organization, the customer service on hold time exceeds 5 minutes during both its busy and slow seasons. Or it could be that the company is wanting to increase their net revenue for a product and they are not being able to do so. Or you can say that there was an employee engagement survey which shows that less than 30% of the employees feel that they are not valued by the company, or 30% of the employees don't feel valued at the company. So there are these problems that you would like to investigate. So once you have an idea about the problem you want to investigate, you have to now frame it in a way that it becomes a research problem, something that you can investigate, and it will have a real world outcome, it will have impact, it will have some kind of an implication, and the problem is not solved very simply. It needs some kind of an investigation which is worthy of a research study. The next step is you have to think about is where is the problem. So is the problem in an organization? Is the problem in a community? Is the problem in a nationwide or nationwide or statewide? Or is the problem only amongst selected members of a population? So is this problem only for example, a problem that only is impacting car manufacturers? Is the problem only impacting students who are in primary school? So you have to understand where is the problem, so that when you are framing the problem statement, people should know exactly where your problem is or where the problem is. It should not be framed in a way that the people who are reading your problem statement or trying to ask you about it start to think that you're making assumptions that the problem exists anywhere or everywhere. So you have to clearly tell the audience where exactly is the problem situation. So this is where the context of the study will be laid out, so that you provide a clear context that this is where the problem is and this is where you will be investigating, or this is the scope of your study. So it clearly lays out the context and the scope of the study. The next thing you have to think about is how can the problem be solved. Now, of course, you cannot have the solution to the problem before you carry out the research, but you need to have an idea of what you want to propose as a solution. So when you propose a solution, then that becomes an investigation that you will be carrying out in your own research to see whether it is effective, whether it has any kind of implications, whether it has benefits or some cost as well. So then that way you are proposing a solution, because that's what research is all about, also investigating the solution and making it very clear to the readers as to the advantages and disadvantages of implementing a solution. Or while implementing a solution or while testing out a solution, you might come across another solution, an alternative solution, which may be more profitable to an organization or a company or to the community. So you have to think about some possible scenarios where your solutions may be implemented, tested, experiments are carried out, so that you can test it out within a given sample of people or within a given population. The next thing you have to think about is why do you want to solve the problem? So I always tell this to my research students, that when you are thinking about a problem statement, there has to be some kind of a real world outcome, some real world impact. Because if a problem is only somewhere in your mind, or this is what you think the problem is, it is not coming from a proper research study, it is not coming from references, that you have read about a problem. It could be coming from your personal experience of working in an organization or working in an industry, but it still has to be backed by some data. It has to be backed by some research to show that the problem exists. And solving a problem will create some kind of a real world impact, some output, some benefit, and the problem should exist. It should be causing some kind of an issue. So having a hypothetical problem which is currently not causing any issue sometimes may not create that impact for readers, because they might feel that this is coming from your mind, this is not backed by research, or they have not seen it happening, or they have not heard or read about it. So it is just something that you are speculating will happen. Nothing wrong with that, but then you should be able to justify that speculation. So you should be able to understand that why do you want to solve the problem, what will it benefit, who will it benefit, is there a financial outcome, is there an economic outcome, is there a political outcome, is there a social outcome, is there a population that will benefit, is there something that has not been addressed for so long, and that through your research, if you solve it, it will be addressed, it will change a policy, it will cause reforms or a new convention to be introduced. So this is something that you have to be very clear about, that why do you want to solve the problem and how will it benefit the industry or the community or the organization. The next one you have to think about, and this is again very important, is the problem a current issue? So you might have heard about some issues happening, or some businesses being affected, or education institutions being affected because of temporary closure due to COVID-19. Now, how did that impact the students? So if you start talking about that educational institutions closed during COVID-19, and then students were struggling to learn, but now that problem is not relevant anymore, isn't it? Now the educational institutions have opened, and there is an option of online learning, there is option of blended learning or flexible learning. What you might think about is, yes, did it have a psychological impact on the students who were held at home for a couple of years, who could not go out there? Is there a psychological impact on it? Is there a long-term study that you can do on it? Or if you are investigating that because of Olympics being held in Paris, there was a business impact, a good impact, maybe a negative impact, maybe because of the number of people coming in, there was a lot of social impact in the society. But now that the Olympics is over, is the issue still relevant? So you have to think about the issue. There's no harm in investigating impact of Olympics, provided that you are studying into something that is a long-lasting impact. So you can make a study as to whether there is any impact of Olympics on the hosting city, or the hosting country, and what is the impact of it, a long-lasting impact. But having temporary issues or discussing temporary problems that are no longer relevant after a particular phenomena or issue is over, then that is not going to be very readily acceptable by the readers or the examiners or the reviewers of your research. Uh, the next thing that you have to think about it is, will the problem persist if it is not solved? So you have to think about the potential impact of your research. This is where you are selling your research. So this is how you show why your research is very important. So if you do not solve it, is this a problem that will persist? Is there something that is going to be there all the time, affecting an organization or an industry, or an institute, or even a community? So you have to think about is that, okay, so you are trying to figure out that because of coronavirus, the tourism industry took a major dive in many countries. Now, are you going to, so if you are trying to investigate how to bring back tourism into certain countries where because of coronavirus, it took a dive, is that still relevant? And is that problem going to be persisting till the time you finish your research? So if your research is going on for, let's say, a couple of years, 3 years or 4 years, at the end of the 4 years, will that problem be still there, or is it something that you feel is relevant right now, but it may not be so in the another 4 years or so? So tourism is slowly coming back, people are flying wherever they want to, the risk of coronavirus coming back may be over. But of course, there are other issues that are coming up, like monkeypox. So you can look at the problem generally from a pandemic point of view, that how that what is the long lasting impact of a pandemic to certain industries and how it has affected it, because there are certain organizations that have changed completely for good, even though COVID-19 is over. So you have to now start thinking about is that has education sector changed completely? So if education sector has adopted online learning, and people are resorting to online learning, what is the impact of that? And is that something that is going to be there if I don't solve it? So a lack of society contact due to online learning, or a lack of peer support, or a lack of being there in the environment of an educational institute like a college or a university, what impact does it have on a student? So this is something that you can always investigate. This is something that will be persisting if it is not solved. So you have to think about the problem in that way, that will it still persist if you do not address it? And remember, you have to only address a small aspect of the problem. You don't have to solve the problem completely. You have to take one aspect, one small aspect of a problem, and try to come up with some solutions. The next step you have to think about is who are the people who are adversely affected by the problem. So when I say people, I mean organizations, I mean institutions, I mean communities. Again, I'm at the risk of repeating myself. It could be countries that are getting affected, cities that are getting affected. Students, whether it's adolescent children, whether it's parents. So you have to clearly come out with who is it impacting, because if you say that a certain problem is impacting everyone, that cannot be true. It may be true, but then you have to justify how is it true. So some people, when they frame a research problem, they don't clearly say who is it impacting. So if you are saying that having driverless cars will impact everyone in the society, is that true? Or is it only true because having driverless cars means that many drivers will be out of their jobs? Is there a safety impact of it? Is there or are jobs being created in another sector, such as technology or IT or computation, so cyber security? So there are jobs being created there as well. So if you say that having driverless cars will have create a job scarcity or will create a job crisis, is that true for everyone, or is it only affecting a certain section of the workforce? You have to clearly identify who is the problem affecting. Finally, you have to think about, will this problem prove or disprove existing knowledge? So your research or the contribution of your research is theoretical as well. Remember that. All right. So you have to think about it. So for example, if you are trying to improve revenue of a company and you come up with a solution where you are saying laying off employees is one of the solution, so then you have to prove whether employee retention is more profitable for the organization or laying off employees is more profitable. Because it's easy to say that laying off employees will lead to salary savings and that will profit the organization, but at the same time losing out on employees, losing out on competent employees, or leading to a talent drain may benefit other organizations or competing organizations, where someone talented from your company goes and starts working for somebody else. So you have to now think about the solution that you have come up with, the probably the result of your research, and this is where your discussion section of your research is very important, where you have to start arguing that your research or the findings of your research, has it proved or disproved that already exist knowledge. So if meetings have moved to an online mode and there are no more physical meetings, and you think this is going to improve productivity, how is this going to have a social impact? How is this going to have a financial impact? So these are things that you have to think about. So again, in terms of education, I can give you another example, that if you find out that people don't want to study 3 or 4 year degree programs, and they now want to study short courses or nano degrees or micro credentials, and they only want to engage in targeted learning, what is the long-term impact of it? So once you come up with a solution or a finding, then you also have to go back, revisit the problem, and also discuss the implications of your solution. So this is how you frame a problem statement. You have to address all this in your problem statement. You have to show the reader or the examiner or the reviewer that when you are framing the problem statement, you have thought about all these existing issues, all these related issues as well. And this is how you will approach the investigation of a problem. And this is how you will approach, deciding on the solution or proposing a solution, and making sure that you have thought about all the implications. You have a holistic view of the problem. You are not biased. You are objectively looking at the problem as a researcher, the way a scientist does with their experiments. So when you are framing a problem statement, make sure that you have thought of all these points. If there is something that I've missed, please feel free to provide in the comment section. Otherwise, I will see you with my next video. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and let me know if you think these videos are useful to you. Bye for now, and I will see you soon.